I still remember the silence before that case began. It was the kind of silence that feels heavy, the kind that settles on your shoulders before a hard decision. Some cases arrive with noise, with excuses, with anger already burning in the room. This was one of those cases. And before I tell you what happened, let me say this. If stories about respect, justice, and second chances matter to you, stay with me to the end and share this with someone who needs it. What was at stake that day was bigger than one outburst, bigger than one ugly sentence. It was about character. It was about power. It was about whether a person with rank and status believed the rules were meant for everybody else. I've spent much of my life listening to people explain themselves. I've heard fear. I've heard shame. I've heard sorrow. But arrogance has a different sound. If you've ever seen pride destroy common sense, then you know exactly what I mean, and I'd love for you to stay with me through this. Here's the thing. A courtroom is not just a room with flags and wooden benches. It is a place where truth is supposed to stand up straight. It is a place where the weak should feel as protected as the strong. When someone walks into that room and acts as if they own it, they are not insulting me alone. They are insulting every person who came there hoping the law still meant something. If that thought means something to you, hit that like button right now and keep listening. Let me take you back to that morning. The courthouse was already full. Papers rustled. Shoes echoed in the hallway. A clerk was organizing files with the steady calm that comes from doing hard work every day. Outside, the city was waking up. Inside, I was preparing myself the way I always do. Slow breath, quiet prayer, clear mind. I never wanted the robe to make me feel bigger than anybody else. If you appreciate that kind of humility in public life, join me and subscribe for more stories like this. Then the defendant entered, tall man, expensive suit, brass in his step. He carried himself like the room should adjust to him. His badge had brought him status for years, and he wore that status like armor, not the armor of service, the armor of ego. He didn't look worried. He looked annoyed that he had to be there at all. And that, my friends, was the first warning sign. Comment and tell me, have you ever met someone who mistook authority for character? The charge itself was serious enough. Abuse of authority, disorderly conduct tied to a public confrontation, threatening language, conduct unbecoming an officer and a chief. But what drew the room tight was not the paper charge alone. It was what he had said in the middle of that outburst. According to multiple witnesses, he had leaned toward another officer and shouted, "I own you, pig!" Not once, more than once, loudly, in public, with people watching. If that shocks you, please subscribe, because what came next was even harder to believe. When I first looked at him, I asked myself a question I have asked in thousands of cases. Is there a human being behind the posture? Sometimes there is. Sometimes pain hides behind pride. Sometimes fear puts on a loud suit and pretends to be confidence. So I waited, I listened, I gave him room to speak. I wanted to see if there was a crack in the armor, a sign of reflection, a hint of remorse. If you believe people should at least get the chance to tell the truth, stay with me. But the moment he opened his mouth, the temperature changed. He didn't begin with respect. He didn't begin with regret. He leaned back, crossed his arms, and said, "Let's not pretend this room doesn't know who I am. Now, I've heard all sorts of foolish things in court, but that sentence has a special kind of poison. It tells you the speaker believes identity is a substitute for accountability. It tells you rank has become a private religion if you think that kind of thinking ruins institutions, hit like right now." I asked him to address the court properly. He gave me a thin smile, not a warm smile, not a nervous smile, the kind of smile people use when they think they are still in control. Then he shook his head and said, "This is political theater. Everyone here knows it." One of the clerks looked down. A bailiff stiffened. You could feel the disrespect traveling across the room like cold air through an open door. If that kind of contempt bothers you too, thank you for being here, and please share this story. And then came the moment that made the whole room freeze. While the prosecutor was speaking, the man pulled out his phone. He looked down. He smirked. He tapped the screen. I stopped the proceeding and told him to put it away. He took his time. Slow. Deliberate. A performance. Then he muttered, loud enough for half the room to hear, "Unbelievable." It was not just rude, it was meant to diminish the process itself. If you've ever watched somebody mock the rules while others struggle to follow them, comment below. You know what bothered me most? It wasn't only the ugly quote, it wasn't only the phone, it was the total absence of humility. Here was a man who had every advantage: rank, salary, influence, years of public trust. He had a chance to model restraint for younger officers. Instead, he used his position like a club. I grew up around people who worked hard for every inch of dignity they earned, so when I see entitlement dressed up as confidence, it hits me deeply. If that speaks to you, subscribe and stay with me. In my years on the bench, I've seen people come before me with trembling hands. I've seen single mothers afraid of losing their license. I've seen veterans ashamed of a bad decision. I've seen workers who missed a payment because life came at them too fast. Those people usually don't walk in acting grand. They walk in carrying burdens. This man came in carrying privilege and using it like a shield, and the room knew it. If you believe struggle and arrogance are not the same thing, hit that like button now. I tried again. I asked him plainly, "Do you accept responsibility for your words?" He rolled his eyes in court. Then he said, "People in my line of work say things. It happens." That sentence may sound small, but it revealed everything. No ownership, no sorrow, no effort to repair the harm, just a shrug dressed as explanation. The room went still. Even he seemed to feel the weight of what he had exposed. If that line tells you everything it told me, comment and let me know. Part of me wanted to show mercy anyway. That is the truth. Mercy is never far from me. I was raised that way. My father, God rest his soul, believed a man should leave room in his heart for grace. He used to say, "Character is how you treat people who can't help you." I have carried that sentence with me for decades. So there I was, looking at a powerful man who had treated others like dirt, and I felt the old struggle begin inside me. If that kind of inner conflict matters, please subscribe. Because here is the burden people don't always see. A judge is not made of stone. I'm not a machine in a robe. I hear the facts, yes, but I also hear the echoes behind them. I think about families, reputations, futures, consequences. I think about the victim of arrogance and the source of it. I think about how punishment can either teach or harden. And that day, I felt both sides pulling at me. If you've ever had to choose between kindness and duty, stay with me for what happened next. 2 days earlier, I had a woman named Maria standing before me. She worked 2 jobs. She looked exhausted, her shoes were worn, her voice shook. She had missed a court date because her son was sick and she had no one to watch him. But she came in with respect, real respect. She didn't ask for special treatment. She simply told the truth, tears in her eyes, trying not to fall apart. If stories of ordinary courage move you, thank you for being here, and please share this. Maria reminded me why mercy matters. She had made mistakes, yes, but she carried those mistakes honestly. She said, "Your Honor, I'm trying. I'm really trying." Now, when someone says that with a broken voice and an open heart, you can feel it. You can tell when a person is fighting life and when a person is fighting accountability. I helped her as much as the law allowed because mercy is not weakness when it meets sincerity. If you believe effort and honesty deserve consideration, hit like right now. And that contrast stayed with me as I look back at this chief. Maria had so little, yet she brought dignity into the room. He had so much, yet he brought contempt. She respected the people around her even while scared. He dismissed staff, mocked the process, and treated the courtroom like an inconvenience. That difference matters. Struggle deserves compassion. Entitlement demands a firmer answer. That is not cruelty, that is moral clarity. If you agree, comment below because this is the heart of the story. I could feel my hands tense on the bench. I remember glancing down for a moment just to steady myself. I prayed silently for guidance, not for an easy answer, just a clear one. I didn't want anger to lead me. Anger is loud, and justice should not be loud. Justice should be clear. Justice should be measured. But I won't pretend I wasn't angry. I was, deeply. If you've ever tried to stay calm when someone insults everything you value, stay with me and subscribe. I thought of my father again. I thought of my family. I thought of the neighborhood that shaped me. I've seen good people struggle with pride swallowed and backs bent by work. I've seen mothers stretch $10 farther than some officials stretch the truth. And then I looked at this man, a public servant who had every chance to serve honorably, and I knew my decision could not be based on sympathy for his status. If fairness should never bow to power, hit that like button now. The clock seemed louder in that room. Tick, 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 nobody moved much. The prosecutor had finished. The defense attorney looked uneasy. The clerk was still. Even the air felt tight. And in that silence I understood something. Mercy without accountability becomes permission. If I let rank soften the consequence, I would be teaching the wrong lesson to everybody watching. Not because I wanted to, not because it was easy, but because it was right. If that moment hits you, please share this and stay with me. So I looked him in the eye and spoke slowly. I said, "This court does not belong to me, and it certainly does not belong to you. It belongs to the law. And the law does not bend because a man has a title." He stopped smiling. The phone was gone from his hand. The arrogance didn't vanish, but it faltered. For the first time, he looked less certain of himself. If you want to hear the ruling that followed, subscribe and keep listening. I continued, "Your words were degrading. Your conduct was abusive. Your attitude here today has confirmed the seriousness of that conduct. You were given every chance to show remorse. You chose deflection. You were given every chance to show respect. You chose contempt." I kept my voice calm, no shouting, no performance, just the truth laid down plainly. Sometimes a quiet sentence carries farther than a loud one. If you believe calm strength matters more than noise, hit like right now. Then I explained the penalties one by one. I imposed the maximum fine allowed under the charge before me. Not to make an example of him for spectacle, but because money is one of the few languages arrogance sometimes hears. I ordered mandatory professional conduct counseling. I ordered community service outside his own department, where he would serve people with no rank to impress and no subordinates to command, and I referred the matter for administrative review. If that sounds fair to you, comment and let me know. I told him exactly why. A fine addresses the public harm. Counseling addresses the failure of judgment. Service addresses the loss of humility. Review addresses the breach of trust. I wanted every piece of the ruling to mean something. Punishment should not be random. It should teach. It should restore balance where balance has been broken. It should say to the public clearly that office is not ownership. If that kind of reasoning matters in justice, thank you for being here and please subscribe. His face changed as I spoke. First disbelief, then anger. His jaw tightened. He leaned toward his lawyer and whispered sharply. When I finished, he said, "You're making a mistake." I answered, "No, sir. The mistake was made before you walked in here. I am simply answering it." The room stayed silent. That kind of silence is powerful, not empty, powerful. It is the sound of people recognizing a line has been drawn. If that gave you chills, hit that like button now. He started to protest again, but I raised my hand, not in anger, in finality. You will not bully this court, and you will not bully the people who serve in it. His shoulders stiffened. The lawyer touched his arm. For a second I thought he might say something even worse, but he didn't. Maybe he finally understood that the room had stopped orbiting around him. Maybe he simply ran out of room to perform. Either way, the decision stood. If you respect standing firm under pressure, share this story. After the case ended, the courtroom slowly breathed again. People gathered their papers. The clerk gave me a small nod. One of the younger officers in the room looked relieved, and I noticed that. It mattered to me. Institutions are shaped not only by leaders, but by what younger people watch leaders get away with. That day, I hope they saw that pride has limits. If you think accountability protects the next generation too, please subscribe and stay with me until the end. But let me tell you something honest. That night I couldn't sleep easily. I replayed the case in my mind. I asked myself if I had been too hard. A judge who never questions himself worries me. Certainty can become vanity too. So I sat in the dark for a while and let the day come back to me piece by piece. His words, his smirk, Maria's trembling voice from 2 days before, the silence before the ruling. If honest reflection matters to you, comment below. When I got home, my wife asked me, as she often does, "How was your day?" And I gave the answer many husbands give. I said, "It was fine." She looked at me and knew that wasn't true. She has always been able to read my face better than my words. So I told her the whole story. I told her about the quote, the phone, the eye roll, the refusal to accept responsibility. If you believe a good partner helps carry heavy days, hit like right now. She listened quietly. Then she said something simple. She said, "You didn't punish his title. You answered his choices." That sentence stayed with me. Sometimes wisdom arrives without ceremony, just a plain sentence in a kitchen at night. And when she said that, I felt some of the weight loosen, because that was exactly what I had tried to do. Not attack the man for being important. Hold him responsible for forgetting what importance is for. If that kind of clarity resonates with you, please subscribe. Did he change afterward? I can't claim a miracle. Courts are not magic. A sentence does not rewrite a soul overnight. But I later heard he completed the service and the counseling. I heard the review forced hard conversations inside the department. I also heard that younger officers talked about the case in a different tone than before. Sometimes change begins not with confession but with interruption. Sometimes a person's pride has to be stopped before conscience can even enter the room. If you agree, share this. Would I decide the same way again? Yes. With the same care, with the same heavy heart, with the same prayer for guidance. Because justice is not about satisfying anger, it is about protecting standards that ordinary people rely on. The law must mean something to the person with no connections. It must mean something to the tired mother, the veteran, the worker, the clerk, the young officer watching from the back row. If you believe equal justice still matters, hit that like button right now. And that brings me to the lesson I want to leave with you. Arrogance is often fear in a fancy suit. It puffs itself up because it knows something is weak underneath. Decency doesn't need that performance. Real character is quieter. Real strength doesn't sneer. Real authority does not humiliate. The older I get, the more certain I become that money cannot buy decency, rank cannot buy wisdom, and power cannot buy peace. If this lesson touches you, please subscribe and pass it on. Everyone deserves respect. Everyone owes it. That includes judges. That includes police. That includes the people behind counters, the people cleaning floors, the people filing papers, the people waiting nervously for their name to be called. How you treat those people says more about you than any title ever will. So if you have influence, wear it lightly. If you have authority, use it gently. And if you make a mistake, own it quickly. That is how trust survives. Comment if you believe that too. I've learned that mercy and accountability are not enemies. They are partners when used honestly. Mercy for the struggling, accountability for the entitled, compassion for the sincere, firmness for the defiant. Both are forms of care when guided by conscience. That day in court, I did not choose hardness over kindness. I chose the kind of firmness that protects kindness from being mocked. There is a difference, and it matters. If you stayed with me this far, thank you deeply, and please share this with someone thoughtful. So wherever you are today, remember this. Don't confuse status with worth. Don't confuse volume with truth. Don't confuse fear with strength. The world has enough swagger. What it needs is steadiness. What it needs is humility. What it needs is people willing to say calmly and clearly, no one owns another human being, not in a courtroom, not in a workplace, not anywhere. If you want more stories with heart and principle, join me and subscribe for more. And if you are the one who has fallen short, take hope from this too. Accountability is not the end of your story. Sometimes it is the first honest page. Admit what you did, repair what you can, respect the people you once overlooked. Start there. A proud heart can still learn. A hard face can still soften. I believe that, or I could never do this work. Thank you for being here with me today. Take care of one another, and God bless you.